Went to a Professor Peterson event a few days ago. I told him he was a pretty good wizard, a person who changes the world around them via verbal and semantic components, i.e. their words and actions. Well, the Memes of Destruction, which is a great username. That's really nerdy, but I approve.
Hey guys, what's going on? Memes here. So, it's happened again. It's happened again. I've been called out, everybody. I've been called out by, Mr. the Plague. Mr. the Plague does not seem to think that my reporting down at the Rally to Restore Sanity and/or Turtles this past weekend, as well as my tangential observations of the Straight Pride Parade, as well as the Let's Take Back Our Pride events, were fully accurate, because I personally did not witness any violence there. I saw some altercations. I saw BPD out there in force, keeping people safe there, but apparently there were upwards of 36 arrests in Boston in regards to that. Now, as I've said before, over here on the East Coast, with all due respect to all the folks in blue on the West Coast, I think some of the things we've seen in more recent years come down to a little bit more of managerial discretion as far as standing orders go. But over here in Beantown, let's just pop some stuff up here. So, yes, we had this article. And, yeah, as we can see, there were arrests. I've seen between 34 and 36, depending on what we saw. Because, let's go over here. Yep. We had some arrests here. There were some, but, yeah, as Mr. Marty Walsh would say, our good old mayor of Beantown here, one of the things that he is focusing on is accusations of police misconduct. And in this article, he says he takes these allegations very seriously. In some parts of the country, there has been much criticism about, at times, police not necessarily being engaged, kind of just holding their own until something may happen. And we have seen acts of violence in these United States of America. And that's wrong. As far as my observation goes, as soon as something starts to escalate, the police would continue to amass, and I saw things that apparently were de-escalated, or people simply dispersed due to the police presence. Apparently, as we can see here from some of these photos, it seems like some individuals were starting to get physical with the police, and the police were responding with the orders on the ground, where I believe if anybody was starting to get physical with them, they would arrest them. At least, I believe if that happens, when you have several hundred individuals and a number of individuals with passions flared, in order to prevent something horrific from happening to the public, BPD themselves, where there were reports of upwards of 4 officers, I believe, with non-life-threatening injuries sustained, that does coincide with at least one individual that reported the police had been attacked. So again, I am simply reporting based upon the information I have and trying to share it as accurately as I can. Again, attempting badly to engage in acts of journalism, because I think that's something we need to do a little bit better at. So, as we go down here, one of the points that Mayor Walsh makes is, where is it? Right here. Basically, he said, "Let me be clear that I take any accusation of police misconduct seriously. I also want to be clear that sowing division between people is exactly the goal of the Straight Pride Parade organizers, and I will not stand for it. Just as the people of Boston work to make our values of love, inclusion, and acceptance known to all, our public safety officials work tirelessly to keep people safe from harm every single day of the year, and that will never change." Thanks, Marty. Now again, you can call that a virtue signal or whatnot. Am I biased? Yeah, I'm a Masshole born and raised. So, but just to kind of go down there, and I'll be straight up. I take what I had heard from Sampson, who, according to him, at the President Trump rally up in Manchester several weeks ago, he fully admitted it was a troll. It was to try to get people's goals. And he said he was trying to point out the hypocrisy. But as you can see here in some of these articles, man, there are some folks on the ground there. When you get a lot of folks from out of town coming in, it makes them feel very uncomfortable. They do feel unsafe. And if this is their home, does it not make sense if folks are coming to town that you have more police than you would necessarily need? Because apparently, under the permit, I believe Super Happy Fun America said they were planning on having upwards of 2,000 participants in this. Apparently several hundred showed up. I believe 300 there. They had approximately. As well as the protests. 2 years ago, we had upwards of 40,000 people here. So it's like the reason why you saw all those choppers up there in the sky, to make sure they had a wide view, just in case if there were any acts of violence breaking out, they'd be able to identify and charge any individuals engaging of that, i.e. to be safe. I guess apparently if you just don't pick one side or another, it's like, all right, I happen to run into some individuals that were wearing black, many of whom were wearing masks. I treated them like human beings. I offered them munchkins. Some took some munchkins. I asked if anyone was willing to go on camera. One individual politely disinclined to my request. The other said perhaps he would at one point, but they were actually heading out at that point, so I didn't see him again. As well as I talked with some of the individuals whom had been in the parade. They shared their experiences. I offered them munchkins. We had a chat. So I'm just getting sick and tired of this whole binary that all of these folks are terrible people. All of these folks are the worst of the worst. It's again, when we are going to condemn all of any group or community for the actions of some, I think we should be wary. I understand there's always going to be situations where, yes, you do have to take a much more hardline stance. This is actually what one of the members of the protesters told me. She happened to be, this young woman, happened to be part of the LGBTQ community, and what she had told me is she was actually criticizing me as a centrist because, hey, it is what it is. She was going over my different privileges and everything, and that's why I straight up asked her. I'm like, she didn't want to go on camera for this, but was willing to have a discussion, and I appreciate that. I asked her, do you think if you replaced the word privileged with blessed, you would have a more positive response? Because I wanted to communicate what the gist of what I was getting from a lot of other folks whom just seem to just really get highly agitated when those terms are used. And I just explained to her that there are many folks where if you happen to say that they were blessed, they can appreciate that. Whereas if you just say that you're privileged, you're almost doing that in, if they perceive it as an attack. And that was something that I felt that she was able to understand. But one of the things that she had said to me is, on certain issues, yeah, you do really need to push things in order to actually achieve some form of change that you want. That's fine. That's fine. It's, for me, it just comes down to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And what I mean by that is, if something is not really the most major issue, do we need to make an issue out of every single little thing? I mean, it seems like perhaps we're being pedantic. I mean, we can do that, but very often if we're focusing on all these little things we have differences about, the big things that are truly important that are affecting these United States in which we live, we don't get to the point of having substantive discussion, because at that point we've exhausted our patience, often our blood sugar as well, with the energy we're expending just trying to argue these points. But now Marty Walsh, I mean, I'll be straight up. Before I actually checked this article, I actually thought he was a Republican. I'm sure somebody will hammer me on that point, but just because, here's the thing. The general differences between how they speak, and again, maybe I just haven't been paying attention to my own local politics, that's on me, but between Charlie Baker, who is a Republican governor, very moderate Republican governor, because up here in Massachusetts we enjoy having moderate Republican governors as well as Democratic governors as well. Is the thing. It's just, I still remember on St. Patrick's Day, and I still think this is the thing. Our lawmakers will get together and they will roast the heck out of each other, but it's not done in a venomous way, which I think a lot of our discourse has gotten to here. But as far as who is Marty Walsh? Marty Walsh was born in Dorchester, Boston, to Irish-American folks down here. He actually is a cancer survivor, because as you can see, he was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma at age 7. So he missed most of the 2nd and 3rd grade, was forced to repeat the 5th grade, and yeah, he had to go through chemotherapy, and he beat it, man. And now he's the mayor of Boston. So we have a cancer survivor that's trying to prevent division within our community. All I'm going to say is I've spoken to some very, what I would consider intelligent individuals who have said that if you are planning on having potentially thousands of people, you need to have the proper security, the proper deployment of resources. Did we necessarily need all those police officers? Maybe not all of them, but you know what? As I was asked yesterday, I felt a lot better having them there. I'd rather have more officers than needed than need more officers and not have them here. So for any type of criticism over a number of arrests, 36 arrests, let's just look right here. All right, so there are arrests. Oh, what's this? 15 arrests along the Methadone Mile after an attack on an officer. Oh, this appears to be, yeah, this past August here. Yeah, when was this? A month ago. So at the beginning of the month, 15 arrests after somebody assaulted an officer. It's almost as if the officers, if something happened to them, act out of an abundance of caution. They were responding to show force to make sure that everyone else was okay. I believe I had a wise individual telling me that that's how police should act. I don't know. I'm over here on the East Coast, man. We're pretty liberal over here, so I don't know. It's almost as if my experience, even a year and a half ago, I'm like, oh, we have 60 folks out here for a free speech event. There's literally 60 officers all around us. Here's the thing. Are there bad apples within any group or community? Yeah. But the time we spend on just focusing on those bad apples, which are often few, and we must condemn them, I think it's more beneficial to focus on the similarities we have. But then again, that's just me. Who am I? I'm just some dude in a yellow shirt who identifies as a half-Jewish dragonkin on the internet. But hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.